All right, good morning and welcome to the show. This is the Weekly Jargon. I am Jose Rodriguez.
And Rohi Zachariah.
And today, Rohi, we have a good episode. We call it the Cup of Joe. Cup of Joe. I want to say joy, but the Cup of Joy. And you know, the funny thing is that as we sit here and we have our coffee this morning, we take it for granted that we have this amazing drink that brings us joy every morning, right? And for those that drink coffee, well, stick around. This is a good episode here. We're going to go ahead and dive into why so many people love this fantastic drink, and why it brings them joy early in the morning. What is it that it's the pick-me-up drink in the morning? But before we do, Rohi, Veterans Day. You know, anything you want to say out there, and anything you guys did over the Veterans Day
I always
holiday?
want to give a thank you to the veterans and for their service, and for those that are serving. I thank you for the day off. I guess it was half day at least. But there's so many people that are out there right now that are going to be especially away from their family as the holidays come closer. So just always a thank you for their time that they give up for us.
Yeah, and thank you again for all the service that you provide. I think we can all appreciate the liberties and freedoms that we enjoy here in this country. So couldn't have done that without you, so thank you. And with that, we'll turn it over to today's episode is the Cup of Joe. Again, the name's Jose. It's not the Cup of Jose, but it's the Cup of Joe. And, when I was younger, I used to see my grandparents and my parents drink coffee, but it certainly wasn't something that I thought that I'd ever drink, right? And I think it was in college when I first started experiencing coffee for the first time, right? People would say, well, drink some coffee. And I worked at a coffee station, so I mean, I would make the espressos, but I still didn't see why people would drink the hype, right?
Yeah.
So what they would say, well, I do this to cram during my midterms or finals, and I need something to keep me going. But I go, man, that looks like tar. That's just something very small, but what it packed inside was something certainly different, and it was probably that energy that people talk about. So before I go any further, though, I'll let you kind of tell me how your experience was with coffee and why it becomes a daily routine. I'm not sure if you drink it daily, but I do, just like many Americans.
Yeah, no, I think I had some. I started in high school, and we were at a camp, and I'm an early bird, so I got up early, had nothing to kind of do, so I went into the cafeteria there, and obviously the parents, that's how they start their day. They're brewing up some coffee, and they asked me if I wanted some, and grabbed a cup, and I never looked back. I think after that, and it's definitely a daily routine. I don't know if I'm quite the cranky person if I don't get my coffee, but it's something that I look forward to in the morning when I wake up. I'm thinking already in my head, all right, I'm going to walk over to the machine, push the button, so it's definitely there. I don't necessarily say I do it for the energy. I mean, because I'm, again, a morning person, so I wake up. I mean, if I don't have my coffee, I can still operate pretty well, but I will tell you that I start feeling if I don't have my coffee by about 12, 1 o'clock, I'll get that headache where I'm like, oh man, I need to get a little something going.
Yeah, that little withdrawal going, right? And I think that's common because, I mean, nobody wants to see it as a drug, right? I mean,
Sure.
I don't think anybody wants to do that. Not for us Americans, right? But I think, at least in my opinion, I see this as it is a drug, right? It is. Caffeine's a drug, and it's America's cup of coffee, so to speak, or America's drug. But I think, it brings, depending on what medical newsletters or what you subscribe to, right, they can say, well, coffee is very healthy.
Yeah.
And coffee is not healthy, depending on which one you subscribe to. But overall, I think anything in moderation is okay, right? I mean, that's they
like to say that, but yeah.
Right? They tell you that. But again, if you said that to every drug, I don't think that would be very appropriate.
Well, I don't know. They're bringing back LSD and all this stuff again. So mushrooms and
and you do see that. That's something that's being marketed. For some reason, you have the rise of mushroom drinks now, and according to the reviews, it seems like that would give you some type of energy.
Yeah.
But what's funny is that when I took that mushroom drink, it had caffeine in it.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I mean, okay, where is it? Just a mushroom, grounded mushrooms that provide you the
It
energy?
is.
But
I have some at the shop. I mean, and for a while there, it was the same thing. We'd gotten some samples of it at one of the events we'd gone to, and I was like, I'll give it a shot, even though it's mushrooms, But they don't offer or advertise it as coffee. This one it's called Mountain Mocha, so I guess somewhat coffee sounding, but everybody that tries it says it really just kind of tastes like hot chocolate. But when you look on the back, like you said, they're going after it does have some caffeine because the caffeine is a quicker response, but they're saying everything that's coming out from the mushroom side of it is what's longer lasting, that you get, more of a gradual decline in energy instead of just that, giant caffeine spike and crash. So.
Well, again, I still feel like anything that has
Traditionalist.
caffeine, right? Whether it's a soda pop or even these energy drinks, I think they pack the caffeine, and that's what I think people are used to when they see these energy drinks, right? The rise of energy drinks, right? And that's one thing. I mean, we're not going to go too deep into it, but it's something that we want to talk about too, right? Caffeine being that it's I would consider America's drug, right?
Yeah.
Especially a drug of choice. However you want to see it. I mean, the reason why I call it a drug is because it's caffeine and it's very addictive, right? And especially if you're seeking that energy, whether it's early in the morning, late afternoon, or evenings. But the rise of these energy drinks, I recall back when Red Bull was doing their marketing. And it was very simple, but the term Red Wings gives you wings, or was it Red Bull gives you wings, right? And you would see these little caricatures that they would draw up and they would fly, right? Because obviously it would pick you up. It would pick you up. And from that moment forward, I mean, you would see that Red Bull became such a hot drink, right?
Yeah.
People would buy it. And then came the other 5-Hour Energy, then then you started seeing Monster. And before you know it, I lost track of all these energy drinks. But the one component that they all have is caffeine. So how much different is that from like just your standard coffee that has all these antioxidants that are actually somewhat good for you if you don't add all these other additives, right?
I mean, I know. I remember again experience with Red Bull. That was in college where. I forgot what event. I don't know if it was the Vans Warped Tour or something was in town, but they were handing out free samples of Red Bull. And I remember I was talking to one of the guys. He was from campus, and I was like, "What is it?" And he like poured some out, and it was like green. And he's like, "I don't know, but it's good." So I tried one, and it was it definitely had a good addictive taste. It was very something you wanted to have again, but I know that the difference in that versus like when your coffee, most of these, especially like your 5-Hour and all these guys, it's not that they're just hitting the caffeine. They're hitting like the B vitamins, your B12, B6, which most people don't realize. Like most Americans have a deficiency in B12 and B6, and that's actually where you get a lot of your energy from. It takes food, it breaks down your food basically. That's where your B vitamins are for. My college roommate, that's one of the things he does. He goes every couple of months and gets a B12 shot, and the doctor says that's all you need. You don't need all that other crap, and that's kind of where I feel when you say like the differences between this cup of coffee and those energy drinks, or even the mushroom drink, is that they're trying to get some of that extra energy, the long-lasting energy from some of the vitamin supplements people need as well. So it's not healthy. I won't call it healthy, but it's trying to appear as though it's healthy. So.
Yeah, and if you're a Gen Xer or even a boomer for that matter, then you would recall the Folgers commercials in the morning, right?
Yeah, Folgers in your cup,
Folgers in your cup, and you would see that mainly it would start off at a farm somewhere, right? And you'd hear that fresh snap of when they opened the first can of back then tin cans, right? And that smell, and then they would brew it, and that was a very captivating smell. But at the same time, just the fact that they portrayed this on TV, it made it feel like, you know what, a coffee in the morning, certainly it feels that way. It feels like everything's going to be okay after you take that first sip of, and for most, you know, that is their vice. That is what they get. That's what gets their day going. And I would lie to you if I didn't tell you that that was my case, right? I enjoy a cup of coffee in the morning, and sometimes I get two. And like you, if I go beyond maybe 11 or 12, I do get that withdrawal because it's a headache, right? Your body's asking for something that you give it every day. So to break that, and I've gone months without it. I think there was a couple of years back that I said, I'm done with this. I'm going to try something different. And I was trying to resist the smells, I think, because my wife still drinks it, right?
Yeah.
And so when I would smell it in the morning, it would just like bring back this thing like, wow, I mean, it smells really good. It's like even like cigars. Some people don't like cigars and don't smoke them, but the smell of that cigar for some reason just, I don't know, it just makes it very pleasant.
You're starting to get into
Yeah. So coffee's no different. So for me, that 6-month period, I was like, man, why did I stop drinking coffee for? Yeah. And I was drinking a substitute, something made of, I forget also roasted, but it wasn't coffee. And I can tell you, Roy, I tried hard. I tried really hard, but I was overwhelmed by the smells and the temptation. So I said, you know what, coffee is good. And as long as I drink it in moderation, I don't like to add any additives. I don't like sugar. I like it straight black. And that's kind of the way I prefer my coffee. And now to the point where you've become like almost like a wine taster, right? You know your coffees and you know what you like, right?
Yeah.
And there's some really weak coffee, some very strong and bold coffee, and then there's just that right coffee, right?
Yeah.
Kind of like Goldilocks in her porridge. It's got to be just right.
No, and that's I think that's where I will say that the coffee shop across the street that has a green logo is somewhat disappointing, you know, because they come across as they're the coffee shop in a sense of how they advertise. And I remember, you know, after kind of drinking coffee for a while, I'll get, like you would say, like they're just regular black coffee, which you would think like that's gonna be their perfection. And I remember drinking it and going like, man, that doesn't really taste very good, you know, and kind of waking up to the idea that, you know, they're not in business because of their coffee. They're in business because of all the other crap they sell that's full of sugar and basically a smoothie at this point, you know. And then I went to their competitor when these other brothers came in town from the Dutch islands, and I remember going to them and asking them, so what kind of coffee do you have? And they were trying to like go through all their mixed drinks. I said, no, coffee. Like, what kind of coffee do you have?
What's that?
Yeah, and they were just like, well, we have coffee. And I was like, well, do you have like a French roast? No, but we can put stuff in it. And I'm like, all right, I'm out. Like, you're not understanding, like, you're not a coffee shop if all you do is serve some kind of like black coffee and then a bunch of mixed drinks. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I may have misspoke when I said America's drug of choice, but it comes close to sugar, right? You got to say sugar is by far one of the highest consumed. Well, I don't know if you call it drugs or what have you, but it's a very addictive. Also,
we can ask the
that'd be great and see what it comes up with. But when you combine both of these, Rohi, and I think you see this also in a lot of the energy drinks that we drink, it's packed with caffeine and certainly sugars in there, whether they're synthetic sugars or they're the real deal. It for some reason, this is kind of why you have your manufacturers of the colas, right?
Yeah.
Soda pops. Not to name any specifically, but there's recipes that they have because they have a distinct taste. But obviously, one of the things that's very makes it very addictive is the fact that it has caffeine and sugar and high content of sugar.
Yeah.
Right. So I felt like if you were going to get that caffeine rush that you're seeking, then I think you can do it in a healthier way, right? And again, coffee in the morning in moderation. As you become a coffee drinker and you're specific about certain roasts and what have you, then you start trying to get that that taste for that specific. It may cost you more, may not. There's different types of coffee drinkers out there, but I just prefer just a good coffee with a good bean that's roasted and has a good flavor to it. I'm not looking for nothing too bold. And again, this is coming from me. Some people may say you may be getting too detailed there, Jose. But it's important that if you get used to something, you get that same consistency day after day.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and it always reminds me of so the comedian Jim Gaffigan. He does a sketch where he's talking about fish, and he's talking about how if you only like fish when it's loaded with a bunch of stuff on it, you don't like fish, and it reminds me of coffee because, like you said, I mean, like if it's a good cup of coffee like the one I have, this is just a black cup of coffee and it's delicious. But when you ask people to drink this right now that are probably buying across the street, their thing is they're going to tell you, oh man, it tastes nasty. Like, how could you do that? And it's like, you don't like coffee. You just like what coffee gives you,
Yeah, no, and you're absolutely right. So we'll go through what AI says about coffee, right? The chemistry behind it.
Yeah.
And I'll read this because it's important to know. I mean, a lot of us probably don't really care. We know that it's something that we're used to every morning. But coffee contains caffeine, a natural stimulant that boosts alertness and energy by blocking adenosine, a neurotransmitter that makes you feel tired, right? And I think this is kind of to your point where you're talking about why we're vitamin deficient. A lot of the times, this is what kind of supplements that, right? It triggers dopamine release, which is, again,
the happy
yeah,
drug.
that's the happy one. That's where the joy comes, right? And for many of you that don't know what dopamine is, that's what, whenever you have this emotion of joy and rush, that's your brain triggering that dopamine.
Yeah.
Which gives that feel-good sensation, hence why many associate coffee with joy and productivity.
So when they say cup of joy, it really is.
It is a cup of joy. It's a cup of dopamine coming at you within a period of 5 to 10 minutes, right? And that's kind of why I think many Americans today enjoy that. They call it the cup of joy, of joy. And for me, at least, it's just the way I start my mornings now, right? Like I said, as a kid, it was something that I would never thought that I would take on. Funny thing is when we took a trip with our kids, and in the mornings, all they had for breakfast was orange juice, coffee, and it was cold. So my wife and I, of course, we get our coffee. And there is an espresso machine. And let me say it correctly because my wife always corrects me. It's not espresso, it's espresso. And she always catches me on that. But my kids wanted something warm and hot, right? So then the hot chocolate certainly didn't make sense. So there wasn't any. So then, can we try some? And I said, well, again, my kids are 16 and 13 at that time. And I said, yeah, sure. And believe it or not, I hate to say that they've become coffee drinkers. And I try to avoid getting them their coffee in mornings, but over the weekends, I mean, they're open to have their cup of coffee. And as a parent, you think, wow, is that too young for them to experience that and have that little rush and start experiencing the coffee or the drug, so to speak. But I noticed that in school now, a lot of these kids do carry those drinks from places like across the street, right? And it becomes like not only addictive, but you have to have a budget for that just about every week that you're buying your $3 to $4 drink every day.
Yeah, and I think that's where it gets difficult is because like if you're just truly out, like again, to get this same cup of black coffee across the street, it's going to cost me probably like $3-4, but I can go buy a pod for $1 and make the same exact coffee from the same brand or similar brand, and it's getting, not to go into our finance stuff, but it's getting to that idea of understanding that if I make this all week, it might cost me $7-8. If I go buy it all week, it's like 3 times that amount of money, and so it just kind of comes down to, I mean, like I have friends that will go and they'll get the same mixes and stuff, and they'll make their own, drinks to mimic, what you might find in those stores. And I've had them, and they're pretty good. But they're doing it because they want that drink, but they don't want to pay that $5, plus cost on each cup that they're having. So.
Yeah, and if you notice, a lot of times you'll see us with our own cups, and we'll have our own coffee here. But occasionally, we do like to bring some of that
That
good Starbucks coffee, which is really good. And one thing I can say about that is it's the ambiance too. Once you walk in there, you're greeted with the hello, we'll be with you in a second, right? And I think that already, brings in, okay, I'm going to get good service. I'm going to get the smell of coffee, and I'm going to walk away with the drink. The drink may be the same thing that I have here, but it's the experience. And I think that's what sells, Rohi. Sometimes, we talk about economics and finances quite often in the show. And, when you look at a business that provides that experience is going to do well, because 3 things that I just mentioned, right? They greet you, you walk into an ambiance, and you walk away with an experience.
Yeah.
And that's what's going to sell. And a lot of the times when I walk in there, I don't think that I'm going to get a better coffee than what I have at home, because at home I have an espresso machine. I do, and it's good. It's great coffee. But it's not. I don't have that somebody greeting me and then walking in there and having that smell, and you're used to it. But again, people that talk about wanting to save that extra dollar, then yes, an investment in your own coffee machine may be worthwhile, right?
Yeah. And I agree with kind of that remark, is that, pre-COVID, that was kind of a routine. Or if you had a meeting, like if you were going to meet somebody, of any kind of business meeting, whatever, it was always done at those locations, and that's kind of like it became the unofficial office out of your office, And I think when COVID hit and there was no more sitting inside, there was none of that. It was just kind of like pick up your order and get out of here. I think they lost a lot of that momentum of, like, just to go in there now is just like, okay, I'm going to order on my phone, I'm going to grab it, I'm going to leave. It kind of gives that point of, I'm just going to go to the nearest location now. It could be them, it could be their competitor, but it doesn't have to be where I'm going to go spend like another hour or 2 and just kind of hang out, meet somebody there and have a conversation. I think it's slowly getting back to that. When I do visit there, you can kind of see the people are slowly getting into that, hey, let's kind of hang out their mentality. But I think they lost a lot of that, that they had kind of going for them.
Yeah, no, and again, I think we see it in not only in our general tax dollars, right? Our general sales tax, because again, we're probably reaching a point where, and again, we talk about it a lot. We've leveraged debt to a point where maybe I'm going to hold off on that coffee. Maybe it's time I ease off on that every day to now like maybe once a week. And that's kind of the way I look at it. That's the mentality that I take into it. Is like, okay, well, if I can go in there maybe once a week, then I'm okay. As long as I'm not going there every day, I have a coffee deal. But sometimes, I feel like getting that coffee, and if I earn a rack of points, then I'll take that free coffee on my birthday. I'll take that free coffee when I earn the points. Nothing's free, right? Nothing's ever free. You're paying for it at some point or another. But regardless, I've acquired a taste for a specific blend that they have, and I like it. And sometimes I find that to be a treat that I can give myself, and those that I meet, or those we'll have some coffee here occasionally. But again, back to the sensation of that dopamine, I think, I don't know if we found out that sugar is...
Sugar still consumed more than the coffee, but
right?
Again, because it's in everything.
Because exactly. And when you add it to your drink, it's just twice the potency, right?
Yeah.
Now you have, well, not only am I addicted to the sugar, but I'm also addicted to the caffeine. Well, we figured that even in cultural and social factors, coffee shops like Starbucks help turn coffee into a social experience. I think we talked about that. Not just a beverage. A meeting for coffee feels casual and meaningful. And what I wanted to say is that typically now, heading to Starbucks or heading to a place where you get a coffee, it's like it's a feel-good place. It's like, look at me, I'm here, I'm social.
Yeah.
And it's a place where you want to come together with your friends, family, and enjoy that cup of joe in the morning.
Yeah.
And the feel-good effect. And I'm not sure if I know there was times where your dad and I and you would go out to La Boulangerie in Fresno, and again, specific coffee that just came with really good pastry. And why did we go there? Why do you drive half an hour? Again, the experience. And I think, to me, that left an experience in my head that I would say, you know what, even if I didn't go with your dad, for example, then I would just go on my own. And I'd take my wife, or my kids would want to go, then it's great. It's a good place to meet, have a good pastry, and enjoy that cup of coffee. Again, it wasn't the coffee that I was after, the fact that there's coffee is great. It was the experience.
Yeah.
And if you're seeing this out there and you have your experiences and what your thoughts are on coffee, feel free to chime in. I'd like to hear what your thoughts are, but it'd be great to get your comments. Anything else you'd like to add there, Rohi?
No, I think just as we talk about it, I'm drinking my coffee. I'm feeling good right now.
Right.
I'm at peace, and and I hope those across the street that are getting their fake coffee are enjoying it as well as much as I am. So.
Yeah, and like one of the things that the coffee does do, again, the alertness, right?
Yeah.
So if you're working early in the morning, and you're probably going to go anywhere between 1 and 4 hours, right, before it starts coming down. Mm-hmm. But in between that time, you can be very productive, or you can be very scattered, right? Depending on how your body reacts to coffee.
Yeah.
If you overconsume, then you may get jittery, and you may be all over the place. Or if you drink just enough, then it's enough to get you going throughout the day.
Agreed.
But the question that I would pose to you, Rohi, is: do you need that? Do you think that's something that you've kind of trained your mind to tell you that you need it, or is it something you can do without it?
I would like to think, is again, having gone for a couple of months on the mushroom coffee fix, there's something about the flavor of coffee, which I agree with, because even though that Mountain Mocha was giving me a similar energy, boost in a sense, there's still something about the smell and the taste of coffee that you can't replace without, coffee itself. But I know there was a moment where I transitioned. We were trying to do decaf coffee for a little while. And I remember that experience was kind of double fold, because you think like, oh, the smell and the taste, everything is still there. And then you would go like, so now I call it defective coffee. That's kind of our joke around the house, is because my wife still drinks decaf, that I call it defective coffee. And I can tell when she sneaks it in, because I'll be like, this is crap. I'm not getting what I think I should. So,
you know what? It's funny you say that, but there are some restaurants out there that I think they pride themselves on serving good coffee. Their food may not be all that great, but their coffee is excellent. And I think that's what, if I was thinking of a restaurant, then that would be the one thing that you want to get started with, especially if your biggest attraction is breakfast, right?
Yeah.
There's nothing like a really good coffee that people are going to come back to. And there's a couple of restaurants that I can mention, and they do a good job with that. And like you said, if they bring me something other than what I expected, I won't drink it, and I'll send it back. My kids always tell me, Dad, why do you got to do that? And I go, well, first, that coffee has been sitting at that pot there for hours, and you can taste it. It's like the bottom part of it. It's just so bitter. That's not the coffee that I'm used to drinking. So whomever is waiting on us, they kindly say, yes, I'll start a new pot. And that's kind of what I like about that, right? If they're going to give me coffee, make sure it's coffee that's fresh.
Yeah.
And hence why McDonald's, their coffee was so cheap for a long time. And I think they still are. I don't know, they're $1 for a while there. I haven't really drank their coffee much, but people like McDonald's coffee. Yeah. It's because it brings people in. And once you bring people in, then hey, go ahead, grab whatever you want. But with that, I think we just want to highlight the essence of coffee, the cup of Joe. If you find this episode interesting, please leave your comments. Love to hear what you got to say. Other than that, enjoy your cup of